Joseph has done this a long time.
Yep.
How much did you guys tweak what he has typically done in winter workouts? Was it a lot different or just a little different?
I think probably a little. You know, the thing that I was really pleased with coming in and not knowing Mike, honestly, not knowing him, is that his beliefs and my beliefs are really aligned. A lot of things that he feels passionate about, I feel passionate about. I think there's a lot in the weight room that you know, obviously the strength stuff. I think you gain confidence. I think you gain mental toughness. You know, I think that he and I share the same belief that discipline and accountability is established there, especially in your summer and your winter. So probably a little bit different. Maybe the accountability teams were different. How we maybe stage some of our winter conditioning were different. So it was probably a combination. But the workouts and stuff, you can tell by looking at me, I didn't get any workout warriors when I was playing, I promise you. So, you know, all the strength conditioning stuff was all his.
Coach, at tight end, there's some interesting body types in there, maybe some interesting skill sets. Mm-hmm. You're an air raid guy who has shown in the past, like Jason Morrow comes to mind at Texas Tech.
Sure.
That when you get an interesting body type, you'll do some creative things with them. What's your thought process with that room going into the spring? Yeah,
I'm excited about that group. You know, really, I talked about Giovanni there, having his skill set. I think he's got a tremendous upside. O'Loughlin's the other one. You know, I'm hoping he continues to progress back from his knee injury. He's a guy that came in, it's put on weight, put on strength. He's a guy that I think has a great future here. The way we've got that room divided, we've basically got tight ends, and we got an S-back, which is basically a fullback position. Like the S-back's going to be like Logan Timmons. That's what he's going to play. But good. The thing that's one of the differences being in a Power 5 compared to some Group of 5 is if you hear me and like I'm not getting emotional, like I've been sick all week, so like so I'm fighting through that deal. But I lost my train of thought talking about that. Going back to tight end. Okay, so Power 5, Group of 5 is there's really about 7 to 12 elite like tight end prospects year in and year out. They're just hard to find. You know what I mean? Most of those guys are playing basketball, honestly. And so guys like that, like Giovanni or like O'Loughlin, those guys that are big, strong, that are versatile enough to play split out at wide out or hand down tight end or back in the fullback position. They're really hard to find. But I believe that we can recruit, all right, at least one of those type bodies each year here at West Virginia, okay? And with Westco going in the draft and having a really good combine, really good Senior Bowl, I think that continues to help us as well.
Neal, you mentioned that the running backs have kind of been the strength of the offense. I know you haven't had a chance to see them on the field yet, but what is it that those guys have done to impress you so far?
Well, I think this is, first of all, size, speed, really good. And what you do, here's what you do get to evaluate in off-season workouts. You don't get to see anything with the ball, okay? But you get to see change of direction, all right? You get to see who plays a really good leverage, all right? You get to see burst. So a lot of those things tie into running back play, right? And so it's a little easier to evaluate running backs. The thing that I like about those guys, they compete, man. Those guys are super, super competitive in the right way. You know, I mean, they're trying to make each other better, and they're competing with each other. And I think they got diverse skills. I really do. You know, and I guess really all 4 of them, but definitely 2 of them, Petaway and McCoy, have been really productive so far in their careers here.
With the situation at center, anybody's name pop up that you're taking a serious look at?
Well, I think that the first 2 guys are going to get a crack at it are Chase and Bryson Mays. I mean, those are going to be the first 2 guys to get a crack at it. But I think you're right on. I mean, that's as important spot as we have on either side of the ball is we put a lot on our center. They need to be a leader type kid. They need to be able to ID some fronts, get us in some calls. So that's something that's really important for us this spring. I think those 2 guys are going to be the first 2 to get the crack at it. And in my opinion, is one of those 2 guys can get it done.
Coach, Bob mentioned earlier the considerations on the defensive side in the Big 12. I mean, you've been in this league. Defensively, you know, you're a couple failed third down attempts from facing 50-some snaps and a half or facing 18 or 19 possessions in a game. But you're also a guy who seems pretty conscious of snap counts on both sides of the ball, and you've called games in the past to help your defense out in those situations. How do you foresee that playing a role moving into the Big 12 the way things work now?
Yeah, I think each game's unique. You know, very similar. What I was telling Bob is each game's unique. So what I mean by that is there's going to be some games you go into that, you know, when you're playing somebody that's depending on what you are defensively, that you may have trouble, and you know that going in, so you got to plan accordingly. Okay, and what I mean by that is maybe you have to take a chance or two on special teams. All right, maybe you need to play a little slower pace on offense. You know, maybe it's a deal where okay, hey, you got high respect for that side of the other side of the ball. Okay, with their other, what I should say, the other team's offense, and so what you want to do is in that is hey, maybe you go for it on fourth down a little bit more so you can try to control the clock. Does that make sense? Yeah. So yeah, and if that, I think that's what you're talking about. If you go back and watch, like when we played against really good people in the past, is, you know, I think that's how you handle though. But each game's different. I don't think you can look at it as hey, 12-game schedule. How are you going to go play? You know, I think each week's new.
Neal, how much live stuff are you going to do in the spring? Good on good or scrimmage stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it is a good question. And here's what I'll tell you is I'll be able to give you a firm answer after I watch this for about 2 days in pads. All right. Here's what I mean by that is I think you have to be careful of how much full speed work you do until you understand like how your guys practice. And what I mean by that, like if I go through in our first 2 or 3 days of practice and we got guys on the ground all the time, then we're going to have to really limit it. Okay. And we got to really teach them how to play, you know, off the ground first, because you go watch a really good football team practice, all right, and their thud practices, and there's nobody on the ground. Does that make sense? Like, best example I can tell you, if you go watch an NFL team and you watch them practice, man, they are getting full speed work, but nobody's on the ground, all right? So you got to evaluate how our guys practice. We're going to have 3 scrimmages. We'll use all 3 scrimmages, okay? But as far as how much full speed contact work we're going to do, I gotta see where we're at first.
Is there an ideal, like if you're trying to get to a certain point by the end of the spring, does it have to look a certain way first?
I don't. Honestly, I don't. You know, we'll have those three scrimmages, and the way I talk about those scrimmages are, I call them moving days. You'll hear me say that as we move through spring. Hey, they're moving days. So, hey, the lights come on, I get the coaches off the sideline, and you got a chance to produce in a as close as a game type atmosphere as we can create in spring ball. So we'll do those 3 times. As far as how we handle the rest of the time, the NCAA allows you to put pads on. Really got to get a feel for what we have.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
That it? All right, thank y'all.